Okay, the website says we're live. I'm gonna wait for it to pop up on my phone like I normally do. Okay, so yeah, we're live. Wonderful. It has been a long time since I streamed. I just got to kind of burnt out, But I am back. It's been so long I had to log back into StreamYard. But I am back. It's very late. I don't expect many viewers here, but it'll save the stream, right? So people can always watch it later. As you read on the title, I'm going to talk about China first and what's going on with that. Let's just jump right into that, shall we? Here's a good Twitter thread I found here from Zoe Deshoy. I'm not sure if I said that right, but I'm not going to show many of the videos because I truly question how real most of the videos we're seeing are, right? I get on TikTok and I scroll through TikTok, and my TikTok is very non-political, really. It's a lot of sports and mostly sports, right? So I scroll through and like every 20 TikToks or so, I'm seeing a video that says it's from China, and of course it's showing something like drones, like a line of these drones just spraying some type of gas down, and right, I don't buy it, right? You can't just show me that. I'm gonna go, oh, yep, that's China. They're doing that in China. The Chinese are mean, right? That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to go, the Chinese are mean. The Chinese are mean. I can't believe they're doing that, but we're not gonna fall for it, right? So let's scroll through here. First, before I really get started, I want to say that Nathan Rich would be the best person to go and watch his most recent live stream about what's going on in China, right? He lives in Shanghai, so if somebody on the ground is what you're looking for, definitely go to him. Even if you're not looking for someone on the ground, he's the best resource I can recommend. But let's go ahead here. One thing we've been seeing reports of about these protests is that there's Telegram groups with Western reporters here. I'm not sharing my screen, am I? Let me do that. My apologies. I can't see around my mic. Okay. There we go. There we go. All right. You can see in this picture here on Telegram, we can zoom it in. Unfortunately, I don't believe it shows the Telegram channel. Maybe it does here, but I can't read those characters. But as you can see right there's CNN here and Epoch Times and Radio Free America, Free Asia, right? And they have links to reporters from those outlets to their Telegram, right? Because they're directing it, right? The people on the ground, right, in China are being directed by these people on Telegram, these reporters, and this is nothing new, right? It's the same playbook, what they were doing in Hong Kong a couple of years ago. I'm sure everybody is familiar with that, right? It's the same exact playbook. It just this time it's primarily in Shanghai, it seems, and also I question how large these protests are. Like you look at this video right here. Obviously, this is just one angle, but I mean, how many people do you see here? I mean, let's say there's 20,000 people. Let's say there's 10,000 people. That's not that impressive, right? For a city as large as Shanghai and a country as large as China, that's quite small. And from what I understand from sources in China, like Nathan Rich that I follow and whatnot, a lot of the people protesting are quite young, college age, right? The people that protest here in the United States as well. And right, they have legitimate grievances. Let's start with that, right? COVID is. I don't care about COVID. I don't think many people truly do, except the people that have sort of been brainwashed, right? I'm no more afraid of COVID than I am the flu, right? If you're healthy, if you're not deficient in vitamin D, if you're not deficient in various other things, you're fine, right? People are full of these comorbidities, right? What is it, like 70% of America is vitamin D deficient, right? So COVID is not an issue. We can live our lives, and the Chinese, many people in China want to do that as well, and you can't blame them for that. And I don't live in China. I've never been to China. I don't even know if I've met someone from China, but my point is, I'm not telling China what they should do, but it does seem like they should lift some restrictions, right? You have to go back to life at some point, right? And especially in China, right? You talk about small businesses here in the United States and how the minimal COVID lockdowns we did in the United States, destroyed what remained of small businesses. And that's, of course, because that was the plan, right? That's what the government wanted to do. But in China, they can't just do that, right? They, from what I understand, depend much more on small businesses throughout much of China because they don't have these massive monopolies that we do here in the United States for things, right? They don't have Walmart in China. So they need, they need Mr. Williams corner store, I guess, in China. It's probably not Williams, but you get my point. We'll scroll down here. Right, these journalists set the narrative, right? They get the videos from their foot soldiers on the ground, and then they send it to their outlet, and it gets amplified, and it's all you see in Western media. And you think, oh, look at this. This is all we're seeing. This must be all of China right now. It's absurd. China's a nation of 1.4 million people. Stop falling for it, right? Right, the tiny minority, this person calls it. This is very important right here. This document. This is from 2019. These were their tactics, right? Only the frontline commander can know the path of the protest, right? So those are the people leading the protest, know where the protest is going to go. They even reference things that they learned from Hong Kong to make this a more effective strategy. And if you read right here where my cursor is, you can see in those Chinese characters the word Telegram, right? So these are being directed on the Telegram app by reporters and activists, if you want to call them that. Right. So I guess I don't really have a lot to say about these China protests, right? I think many people that are on this stream probably likely understand that much of it is fabricated and much of it is being amplified. There are some protests in China, specifically around Shanghai and other places, and they have legitimate grievances. They want COVID restrictions lifted. I don't blame them. I do too, especially. We have vaccines now, right? Aren't we supposed to go get the great, wonderful vaccine and be fine forever? That's what they tell us. But then we go get a vaccine. Like, well, you have to get 6 boosters. And even once you get those 6 boosters, well, you still need to wear a mask while you get up to go to a bathroom in a restaurant, right? It's ridiculous. It's all about, here in the U.S., it's all about just controlling us. China, I feel like it's safe to say it's quite different. The government can't just give up. The Chinese government can't just give up and say, okay, no more restrictions. We're done. We're sorry, right? They can't just do that because they've spent 2 years now with these restrictions, and that would be a massive blow to many, many people in China as well. Most of China supports the government, the vast majority, right? This is a government that's lifted 800 million people out of poverty over the last 70 years, right? This is a government that's respected in their country. It's not the U.S. government we're talking about here, but they have legitimate grievances. I don't have a lot to say about the protest, but it's the clickbait thing to talk about now, so I'm touching on it. I'm not going to show any of the videos. Like I said, I don't believe any of them. If you see anything about China from anyone that you don't already trust, keep scrolling. Right? It's nonsense. This is something that Nathan Rich did that I want to do as well. He looked up the constitution of China, right? And I think this is very good to do with many nations that you're talking about. I did this with Ukraine a couple weeks ago with someone I was talking with, a friend of mine, and I brought up the Ukrainian constitution, like to show them, look, Stepan Bandera is a national hero. Like these are things in the constitution of Ukraine. This isn't like a few fringe viewpoints throughout Ukraine. No, this is in the constitution. But so let's look here at some of the Chinese constitution. This is the preamble. I'm not going to read that, but let's read what they call the general principles, right? Article 2 here. All power in the People's Republic of China belongs to the people. The organs through which the people exercise state power are the National People's Congress and the local People's Congresses at all levels. If we keep scrolling, I believe Article 5, it gets into free speech. The People's Republic of China shall practice law-based governance and build a socialist state under the rule of law. The state shall safeguard the unity and sanctity of the socialist legal system. No law, administrative regulation, or local regulation shall be in conflict with the Constitution. All state organs and armed forces, all political parties and social organizations, and all enterprises and public institutions must abide by the Constitution and the law. Accountability must be enforced. Maybe this isn't where the free speech comes in. But this is a great resource for any country. Like, look up their constitution if you want to understand it. I could have sworn Article 5 was free speech. I'm pretty sure there's some free speech stuff down quite far here as well. Right? China's amended their constitution many times, like constitutions are made to do. We don't do it here in the United States because we don't have a government of action, right? They do have a government of action in China. Here we go. Article 35. Citizens of the People's Republic of China shall enjoy freedom of speech, the press, assembly, association, procession, and demonstration, right? Right. If you go and look at American and listen to American media or Western governments, you'd think that China forbids freedom of speech. Like, you would think, oh, I figured China had in their constitution that you can't have freedom of speech, right? Because they're lying about China all the time. They lie about China really more than any nation. I mean, Russia, as of recent, and the Soviet Union is probably the most lied about and misrepresented nation in all of history. But nowadays, I'd say that Western media, Western governments lie about China far more than any nation, except for the past couple of months in Russia. But that will end eventually, and they'll go back to focusing on China. But look here, Article 36. Citizens of the People's Republic of China shall enjoy freedom of religious belief. No state organ, social organization, or individual shall coerce citizens to believe in or not to believe in any religion, nor shall they discriminate against citizens who believe in or do not believe in any religion. The state shall protect normal religious activities, right? Once again, you'd probably think, oh, I was told that China is murdering Muslims in the Western China and the Uyghur region, right? They're murdering Uyghur Muslims. They must not have any religious belief, right? They hate religion. They're communists. They're red commies. They have no religion, right? It's bullshit. It's bullshit, right? Any deep dive into the Uyghur nonsense, it's debunked almost immediately. Really, if you just think critically about it, you could personally debunk it. But every UN investigation, every investigation ever, it all comes back with nothing, right? The population of the Uyghurs has increased, right? The one child policy, right? Everyone in the United States is familiar with the one China policy because it's one of the things they've misrepresented to try to demonize China. And right, who the one China policy applied to who? It applied to the Han Chinese, right? The ethnic majority in China. It didn't apply to ethnic minorities such as Uyghurs, right? So it's nonsense. It's nonsense that they try to say they're discriminating against Uyghurs, right? Why don't you think there'd be more uprising throughout the Uyghur regions, and people, the China liars, would say, oh, well, they repress it. They don't allow it. They kill anyone who does it. Well, why are they doing that in Shanghai, right? Why did they kill everyone in Hong Kong, right? It's nonsense. They're lying to you, right? China's a very big country. China's a very modern country. China's a global superpower. It's the United States and China are the global superpowers. China's very large. They're very developed. They're going to have disagreements. There are going to be protests, right? You're not going to change China from the outside. You're not, Western media isn't going to be able to publish a video and talk about, oh, look at how they're being mean to these demonstrators. China must. You're not doing anything, right? The Chinese Communist Party, the People's Republic of China, is the most successful revolution in all of history, right? All of human history. There's been no revolution more successful than that of China, right? Look how many people were involved in that revolution. Look how many people were affected by that revolution. And look how many people have been lifted out of poverty as a result of that revolution, right? Hundreds of millions, like 1 billion people, right? So you're not going to change China from the outside. China will change from the inside, and they'll change on their own, right? They don't need the West coming and lecturing them about it, right? It reminds me of that tweet, the famous funny tweet. I forget who it was, but it said, I was talking to an African official, I forget what country, and he said, every time China comes, we get a hospital, right? We get a new hospital. Every time a Chinese delegate comes, we get a new hospital. Every time a British delegate comes, we get a lecture. And some British guy replies and says, there's no such thing as a free hospital. How will you pay for that hospital? And the guy responds, here comes the lecture, right? That's what it is. The West feels they can lecture the world because they control the oil for the last 400 to 200 years, I guess, right? They feel like they rule the world. They're the best, right? You have Ursula von der Leyen, the EU commissioner or whatever her title is. You have her saying things like Europe is a jungle, and the outside world wants to, or Europe is a garden, and the outside world is a jungle, and the jungle wants to invade the garden, right? It's insane. It's something you'd expect the leader of Germany in the early 40s to say. I don't want to say the name because we're on YouTube, and YouTube is stupid, but you know who I'm talking about, right? It's insane the things they say. And then who's the other guy? The other European official? What's his name? I forget. Joseph Borrell. He said very similar things, right? These are genocidal, insane people. But we will move on from that, right? It's outrageous. The Western governments, Western media feel they can lecture the world. Meanwhile, their people are poor, starving, have a hard time doing anything in life, right? What's China doing, right? What's going on in China, right? Last time I checked, they're industrialized everything, right? There's bullet trains everywhere, right? You can get from one part of China to the farthest part of China very short. Try to do that in the United States, right? What are you gonna do? You're gonna go to an airport. You're gonna have to go through homeless people, right? If you want to go to LA to New York, you have to go through you have to get through the homeless people or get through the horrendous traffic, and you're gonna have to go into the old airport that's probably crowded, and you're gonna have to go through this weird security, right? It's nonsense. Let's move on to Russia, right? I'd rather talk about that, specifically the war, Ukraine. There is a video, I believe, here I wanted to show. I'll try to scroll through here so YouTube doesn't see anything it doesn't like. I had it pulled up, but I clicked off of it on accident. That is my bad. Here we go. So this is from November 28th, which is essentially today. It's 1:40 in the morning, so I guess technically it's yesterday, but we'll scroll through here. And obviously, for those of you that might be coming here from a good political, thank you for being here, good history, whatever we're calling it on Telegram, this is a Russian source. I know many of you are going to be sensitive to that, but we shall persist, right? After a long period of defense, Russian troops launched an offensive in the Lysychansk direction as a result of a decisive assault. LPR, People's Militias units, broke through AFU defense and entered Spain, right? And then Bakhmut. That's kind of the Bakhmut's getting the center of attention right now in the conflict because it's where the heaviest fighting is going on. It's a strategic position here. I guess we can pull up a map. I don't like the video there. It's just constantly going. Let's look up Ukraine. Let's just look up Ukraine-Russia map. I find that the Western media has pretty solid maps still, even though they're misrepresenting what's on it. Whoa. Yeah. Maybe we'll just look up Bakhmut. Quite frankly, I wanted to avoid spelling it. B-A-K-H. Okay. B-A-K-H. We'll go ahead here. We'll go ahead and look on Google Maps. All right, so obviously I don't have the cool lines and the shaded red to show who controls what area, but you get the point here. You're smart if you're watching this. Here's Bakhmut. I don't really want this on the center of my screen. Great. Here's Bakhmut. It's where a great deal of the most intense fighting right now is going on. Scott Ritter interviewed one of the Chechen commanders. I forget his name, but they talked extensively about this, and about the vibe, if you will, what I'm getting from following what's going on in Bakhmut is very similar to what was going on down here in Mariupol a few months ago, right? You remember Mariupol was sort of the stronghold of the Azov battalion. It was one of the first big cities that the Russians really took control of, and right, the fighting there was very, very intense, and the city was of course destroyed. Luckily they've been building it back up since they've driven out the Azov battalion and various other neo-Nazis and whatnot. And a similar thing will happen here in Bakhmut, really all of this territory. It's very sad though that it had to go down this point, and once again, that's not the fault of Russia. If you're watching this, you probably know that, but if you're coming here from good history, right, which is something I write for, you might be a bit more sensitive to that viewpoint that this is not Russia being mean and being aggressive towards Ukraine. I guess you could say they are being kind of mean now, but right? Ukraine. What's the Bible quote? Ukraine reaped the wind, and now they're reaping the whirlwind. Is that sowed the wind, and now they're reaping the whirlwind? Right? That's what's going on here. That's what's going on here. I forget what my point was. I was getting towards. I'm tired. I'm sorry. It's very late. I decided to stream though. I kind of got a burst of energy. Went for a walk with the dog and decided to stream a little. I got to start streaming more, right? If I want this to grow, please share, like, all that, help it grow. Let's continue here. Wagner PMC fighters repelled the attack, forcing the enemy to retreat with losses. To the south, Wagner, which is, of course, the mercenary company, and DPR militias units pushed through to the Ukrainian defensive and came close to Kurdyumivka. During fierce fighting, multiple cities here, settlements were liberated. And if you're coming here from good history and you think, oh, he's saying they're liberated, what a clown. Well, they are being liberated, right? This region, the Donbass, the eastern Ukraine, the Russian-speaking ethnic Russian regions have been being terrorized for 8 years. This is very. I almost get sick of talking about it. It's been like 9 months now, and it's like multiple times a week I have to go into this tangent about how I have to say the same things over and over and over and over. It's so tiring. People don't learn. They hear information and they go, okay, that's interesting information. And then they move on and they see CNN say Russia mean, and they go, oh yes, Russia mean, information gone. It's so annoying. But unfortunately, it's where we live here in the United States. I was reading yesterday a book. It's right behind me. What is it called? There's no limits to growth, right? It's one of the books from the Schiller Institute. And they were comparing society in the 13 colonies and about the 1780, 1790 time versus that in London at the same time. And they had census data from the 1790 census of the United States. And what they found was that about 90% of the population of the young America at that time, essentially the colonies, 90% of the people living there were literate, right? They could read, they could write. And in England, it was far less. It was something like 30% at the same time. And right, England was, of course, viewed as like the superpower back then. And my point is, the United States at that time, the people of the United States were far more capable of understanding advanced ideas and having a true political education. And of course, that shouldn't be surprising, right? They had a revolutionary war and whatnot. But my point is, the American people now are in such a state of despair, and what other words can I use to describe it? Just destitution is what I think. It's like intellectual destitution, even, right? It's just, and it's been done on purpose. The American people have been dumbed down so much. I don't think Americans are dumb. I think that they're just so exploited and they don't really know. And that's what we have to do, right? If you're someone that's watching this, you're a member of the CPI, Center for Political Innovation, or something like that, we have to educate. I think the Center for Political Education is on right as hitting a bullseye with that. Education has to come first, and then you can have a movement, right? You can't have a movement if people don't know what they're moving for. I wanted to show something here on my Telegram. Follow me here if you're watching and you're enjoying this commentary. I linked it in the bio, but you can just go to Telegram, look up Bradley Wasser, cool camouflage picture. You can see me sitting there with my shotgun, turkey hunting. Very cool picture. I know. You don't have to tell me. But let's scroll up here. This is a very sad video, right? This is Kherson, right? Now under Ukrainian occupation. This is a part of Russia, right? Kherson is one of the 4 regions. Kherson, Zaporozhye, Donetsk, Lugansk. That officially became a part of the Russian Federation a few months ago, right? I actually haven't streamed since Russia pulled out, so I guess I'll address that. Obviously, Russia did pull out of this region, and in the West, we were supposed to believe, Russia was defeated after a long, intense battle. The Ukrainians prevailed with our great American weapons. We need to send more weapons, right? That's what we're supposed to believe. But my point is, right, the Russians were really defeated. They didn't take many losses because they didn't fight for it very much, right? They did a cost-benefit analysis, right? They said, okay, if we stay here and we hold this line, we'll hold it, but we're going to lose many men, right? And many men are going to die, and they don't want that. They want to minimize casualties here, right? the Russian plan from not the get-go of the operation, but the Russian strategy since about a month into the operation is maximize Ukrainian military casualties while minimizing Russian casualties, right? And or Russian aligned casualties as well. And that's still the plan, right? They're killing as many Ukrainian troops as they can while taking as few casualties as they can. And that's unfortunate. So many Ukrainians are going to die, and Polish individuals that are fighting, and even Americans, right? I believe 10 Americans have been killed fighting so far, right? Of course, they shouldn't be there, but that's beyond the point. It is too bad that those people are dying, and here in American media, they tell us, oh, that's because Russia is so ruthless, and they're just killing everyone. And right, it's nuts. Here's a video about Azovstal. That was the plant where the Azov Battalion made their last stand, right? In Mariupol. Negotiations in the EU regarding the establishment of a price ceiling for Russian oil have reached an impasse, right? Right. I said it's almost like Europeans don't want to freeze to death in order to help Wall Street's proxy war against Russia. Mali has banned from its soil French GMOs, NGOs. I'm sorry. Here it is, Mariupol, right? This is Mariupol now, right? Or at least some buildings and some parts of it, but right, they're rebuilding. It's good to see. You don't want to see, right? Even if you're not somebody that supports Russia's side of this conflict, I believe that you're wrong. But even if you're not, you shouldn't wish that the conquered regions you shouldn't wish that those regions should be just destitute forever, right? That's not very nice, right? You really have no credibility if you're out here saying Russia is very bad, Russia is very mean, all Russians need to die, right? Okay, what do you say? You're saying that Russia is exterminating Ukrainians, but at the same time you're over here saying, oh, Russians are bad. The only good Russian is a dead Russian. If you go to right, I'm not going to, right, YouTube isn't going to pick that up. I couldn't say the name of the leader of Germany during the early 40s because I was worried about YouTube kicking me off, right? But I can say all Russians need to die, and is YouTube going to pick that up and have a problem with it? No, they're not, right? And somebody tested it, I forget who it was, but on Twitter they tweeted, all Americans need to die, all Germans need to die, all English need to die, all Russians need to die. Every single tweet was taken out except one. Which one was it? It was, of course, the one about Russia, right? Because you could say anything you want about Russia, you could do anything you want towards Russia, you could be as ruthless towards Russians as you like, and it doesn't matter, right? Nobody cares in the West because we've just been conditioned to go, Russia's bad, Russia's subhuman, Russia isn't a part of Europe, Wall Street doesn't control Russia, therefore Russia bad, right? In the 90s, America was much more open to Russia. They were much more friendly to Russia, right? That's because the Wall Street dominated them. They were looting Russia, right? Russia was looted. The Soviet Union, after the Soviet Union fell, those countries were looted, except for Belarus, pretty much, right? And you had millions of people became homeless overnight. Millions of people went hungry overnight. I believe it's about 20 million children did not go to school, right? They didn't go to school. They had no school. They couldn't read. They couldn't write for the most part, right? You had illiteracy massively going up. And one of the best metrics, I think, to judge a society by is literacy, right? Is literacy, right? Because reading and writing is very important, obviously, but also it shows like how basic is this country. What kind of basic, fundamental institutions does this country have? And sorry, I got distracted. But what kind of basic fundamental institutions does this country have? And you have these elite sort of Americans. You bring up literacy, and they go, "Well, what does that prove?" Right? I can read and write. I've been able to read and write since I was 3 years old. It's because you were born in a developed country. You went to school. You were able to develop, right? These nations that I'm talking about, post collapse Soviet Union, they were not able to develop, right? The literacy was very, very low. You had 20 million children did not go to school, drug addiction through the roof, suicide through the roof, all these things, right? And why was that? It's because they were being looted by the global capitalist, right? By the oil monopolies and they talk about oligarchs here in the West. We always hear about Russian oligarchs now. And where do those oligarchs come from? How are they created, right? They just exist naturally in Russia? No, right? Wall Street went in, they looted Russia, they bought up the state enterprises, and the people that ended up being in charge of these state enterprises, the ones that were bought up, they became the oligarchs that we're familiar with now, and have recently been sort of destroyed by the West. Right, the West created these people. They were sort of the biggest opposition to Putin for 20 years, right, since Putin has really come to power, and Putin did do quite a bit to get these people out of government, to keep these people out of government, and the West came in, a couple months ago after the start of Russia's operations, and they took away all the assets that these oligarchs had in the West, right? Because the oligarchs didn't keep much of their assets in Russia because Russia would confiscate it because they were fighting against them, but they would keep it in the West, and the West seized it. They stole it, right? They stole it. I don't feel bad for the oligarchs, but they did steal it, and now they're very weak. And you had Putin almost immediately, a couple days later, he gave a speech saying, you guys aren't Russian. You oligarchs, we don't claim you in Russia, right? You are traitors to the nation, right? You want to go live in your villas in Miami or your penthouses in London or Paris, and you want to be Russian, but you don't want to benefit Russia. Be gone, right? It's very based thing, right? It's a very understandable thing for Putin to say. And my point is, the West just took away that competition overnight, and it's very interesting. I've been going for about half an hour here. I am getting a bit more tired. What else should I talk about? I actually have more viewers than I thought I would. If you wanted me to talk about anything, comment it. Obviously, the U.S. plays Iran in like 12 hours in the World Cup. That'll be interesting. That will be interesting. Let's share the screen and scroll through Telegram. Maybe some news websites or something. We can find something to talk about. What's going on here? Russia takes a tough stance on the oil price ceiling, right? Russia said they won't sell gas to anyone that implements the oil price cap, right? It's very understandable. And something that people don't understand in the West is, okay, even if you drive down the price of oil in order to try to hurt Russia, Russia will just produce less, right? They'll produce less. There'll be less on the market, and the value of what's there will then go up, right? You can't beat them. The war has been lost if you're Wall Street or whatever. That's what I don't know if they don't understand it or if they don't care, but they've lost the war, right? They're continuing to fight some battles, but ultimately the war has been lost for them. Russia's going to gain power from this, right? Whether you think that's a good thing, whether you think that's a bad thing, whether you support Russia's side of the operation, whether you don't, Russia is going to gain power from this conflict. That's just an indisputable fact. They already have. You see what's going on the world stage, right? The international community is not condemning Russia. They're not upset with Russia for their operation. The United States is, the EU is, NATO is, the NATO-aligned countries like Japan and South Korea. They're upset, but China's not, India's not, Brazil is not, essentially all of Africa is not, essentially all of the Middle East and Saudi Arabia, right? Saudi Arabia has been a U.S.-controlled state for 100 years, right? And even they're not against Russia, right? They're moving even farther away from the United States because of this, right? They're going to start selling oil and gas to China and yuan instead of the American dollar, and Russia is coming out on top of this conflict. I think it's if I was one of these Wall Street guys, if I was Joe Biden, if I was if I was one of these people making these decisions, I think I would look back. I think I would look at this and I'd think, well, okay, we're losing. This isn't good for us. We need to stop the bleeding, right? Stop the losses. You're losing so much. Why are you continuing to lose more? It doesn't make sense to me, unless they're the military-industrial complex. They're the ones benefiting from this very much, and obviously the oil companies as well. But right, if I'm anyone else outside of those two corporations, you have to have this end as soon as possible. And I do think a great deal of these people are coming around to that conclusion, right? You have Mark Milley. As soon as the midterms were over, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, as soon as the midterms were over, you have him start saying, "Oh, we need to negotiate a peace." You have Macron saying a negotiated peace. Obviously, Erdogan from Turkey has been saying that for a long time now. They're starting to come around. However, oil, the military-industrial complex, even not so much the military-industrial complex, because this was a bit unexpected for them. They're obviously having massive profits from it, but even they're not thrilled about it. They might understand more than most the threat of a nuclear war, the threat of a war with Russia. And I think that's why you have Mark Milley saying these things. But if you're the oil companies, the oil prices are through the roof. Why stop it? You'd want this to go on forever if you're them. And that's exactly what they want. That's exactly what they're trying to do. It won't, of course. Oh, we have some type of a spam person in the comments. My private photo here. Really? We'll go ahead and block you. If you're interested, go look at the private photo. Maybe it's something nice. Suppose I really have any viewers, right? It's 2:03 a.m. where I am. It's pretty late. Let's maybe go scroll through RT and find something to talk about. I feel like I must entertain now. I was only going to talk for a little bit and then hop off, but the people have demanded more, so we will give them more. U.S. approves arms sale, right? The U.S. also froze arm transfers to Ukraine, like $19 billion, or not Ukraine, Taiwan, like $19 billion worth. That's a pretty big deal, right? You have American officials now coming out saying, our stockpiles are being depleted, and we have to stop. And same thing in Germany, right? The Germans have like enough ammunition for like 2 days of fighting if fighting were to break out. It's very funny, right? It's sort of contradictory if you think about it, right? They've said for years, okay, Russia is this big bad aggressor. Russia wants to come wipe us off the face of the earth, but meanwhile, we're going to give away the majority of our military hardware, our arms, our ammunition. We're going to give it away. But Russia's big bad, and they're going to come attack us. Why are you giving your arms away, right? If you have this big bad, massive threat that's coming to try to take you out of existence, why are you giving away all your arms? That doesn't make sense. That doesn't hold up, right? As soon as you think critically, it falls apart, right? That's the whole point. Think critically about the things these people say, and it falls apart completely. It completely falls apart. One thing I think is funny in American media, the U.S. will transfer there'll be like 32 million or 60 million rounds of ammunition being transferred to Ukraine. Excuse me. But, 60 million rounds of ammunition being transferred to Ukraine, that's, you read that. Most people, they read that, they go, wow, 60 million rounds, that's so much. And, if you actually go and do research, you find out that's enough for like 2 days of fighting, right? You're being manipulated if you're on American media. I'm sure everyone watching knows that. But we start sharing the screen again. We'll scroll through here. Comment where you guys are from. I'm curious to know who's up with me right now. Are you in the U.S.? It's pretty late here. If you are you in Europe? It's not as late there. Elon Musk reveals what's on his nightstand. What a topic. That's what we need to be focused on right now. Oh, yes. Let's read about this, right? The Central African Republic. Wow, this is about Mali. Let's look up Central African. An RT, that's sort of my go-to here. They have articles about it. Fighting has broken out, right? That's what we're trying to get to here. Not much going on here. We might have to resort to some American media here. Oh, this is from the UN. Well, anyways, right, there's been fighting that's broken out in the Central African Republic, as the capital here as well. There was an airstrike on Wagner PMC, right, the Russian private military contractors, right? There was an airstrike on one of their bases, and who carried out that airstrike is an interesting question, but that's beyond the point, I guess. But it's a destabilization effort. That's what it is, right? The U.S. is destabilizing as much as they can because that's very beneficial for them. They've shown that over the years, and that's what's going on here. So, we shall move on. Illinois. Thank you, Danny Knapp. Well, welcome from Illinois. You're in the same time zone. Thanks for being up with me. Ukraine plan to retake Crimea in 2023, says former, I assume, Russian commander, right? And that's something that you don't get told here in the West, is that, Russia believes that Ukraine was preparing a large-scale operation on the Donbass. Russia claims that Ukraine was going to launch that operation about a week after, when February 26th, when Russia launched their 24th, I forget when Russia launched their operation. You don't get told that in the West. Well, obviously, you can doubt that if you'd like, and that's fine. But nevertheless, you have to take it into account, right? You can't just ignore Russia. That's something I make the point about a lot. Is you can't just ignore Russia. You can just ignore China and say, "Oh, everything they say is fake. It doesn't matter." You can't do that. You can't try to, you can't try to isolate somebody and then be surprised when they're hostile towards you, right? That's absurd. It's a narcissist, right? You don't take accountability for your actions. You have no awareness of what your actions are doing. That's what the U.S. does, right? Let's just click on an article here. NATO to boost presence in Baltics and Black Sea. Let's read about it. NATO Secretary General Stoltenberg has said the alliance is set to expand its presence across Eastern Europe from the Black Sea to the Baltics, hoping to send a clear message to Russia as fighting rages on Ukraine. A clear message of what? Right? Russia gets it. You don't like them. You'll defend NATO. Russia understands. Speaking, and they just want to escalate these tensions so much. It's absurd. This man here, Stoltenberg, he is a criminal of the highest degree. All of these people are criminals of the highest degree. They're endangering all of humanity. You know what happens in a nuclear war, right? It's not just by Russia, by Europe, by the United States, by Canada. It's everything, right? We're talking about like 4,000 nuclear warheads detonating, sending a huge cloud of dust into the stratosphere. This cloud of dust will remain there for like 10 years. No crops can grow, no direct sunlight, ice age conditions. It's the end of humanity, right? And these people are bringing humanity to that. Stoltenberg, Joe Biden, Macron, the carousel of UK prime ministers, right? They're bringing the world to the brink of nuclear annihilation. Right, and of course they blame Russia. They say, "Oh, well, Russia's the one launching military operation." Well, yes, you forced them to. But we continue. In response to Russia, right here we go. In response to Russia's aggression, NATO is reinforcing its presence from the Baltic to the Black Sea. We have set up a new battle groups, including the one led by France here in Romania. Fighter jets from Canada also help to keep your skies safe, and U.S. Patriot missiles boost your defenses. This sends a clear message that NATO is here. We will do what is necessary to protect and defend all allies. A NATO foreign minister. And Russia understands that. Russia understands that NATO will protect NATO. At least they say they will, right? NATO says a lot of things and they don't do it. They said Ukraine will be a part of NATO, and it's a de facto a part of NATO, but it's not officially a part of NATO, right? But Russia gets it. You'll defend it if Russia attacks. Russia has no interest in attacking you. Russia, you're not on Russia's mind, right? You're not constantly in their mind. They're not constantly thinking, how can we go attack the Americans? How can we go attack NATO? They're not. No one cares about you. But we move on. A NATO foreign ministers meeting will kick off in Bucharest on Tuesday, where Stoltenberg said members will, quote, address ways to step up our support for Ukraine. Significant military assistance. He hailed Romania's significant military assistance to Kiev, claiming it as, quote, in our own security interest, unquote, to back Ukrainian forces, while insisting, quote, we cannot let the Putin win. Right? Okay, let's read that. Read it what it really says, right? He hailed Romania's significant military assistance to Kiev, claiming, quote, this is what the quote should say. This is what he should have said, claiming, quote, and it's in Wall Street's best interest to make money. It brings the world to nuclear annihilation, unquote. Right, and then he goes on to assess, we cannot let Putin not destroy the world. Right, that's the quote. That's what it should say. Officials will also discuss the provision of new air defense systems to Ukraine. Training soldiers. What are you doing? 8 months ago, I get it. 8 months ago, you want to send all that stuff to Ukraine. I get it. What are you doing now? How much has Ukraine lost already? Where's this stuff going? Right, the FTX stuff happened. Everybody with a brain already knew that there was a huge amount of corruption going on with all this money going to Ukraine, and you're going to send more. What are you doing? At least this is actual hardware, not cold hard cash that could go wherever. Of course, this hardware would go wherever, right? If you think the European passenger plane is going to be shot down in the next couple of years with one of these with one of these Stinger missiles or one of the man pads, right? If you think that one of these is going to be used to shoot down at least one passenger plane in the European Union and perhaps anywhere else in the world over the next couple of years, you're insane, right? Right, a javelin missile. You know what a javelin missile would do to a car, right? You see what it does to a tank. You know what that would do to a limousine, right? I mean, this is the situation that the U.S. is creating in Europe. They're creating a situation where terrorists, cartels, gangs, whatever you want to call them, they're going to be able to get this advanced weaponry, right? Can you imagine if a HIMARS fell into the hands of one of these people? And that's why the U.S. has contractors, mercenaries on the ground with these HIMARS to prevent the Ukrainians from selling them, right? Because that's who we're dealing with in Ukraine, right? Ukraine was the most corrupt nation in Europe by far, very possibly the most corrupt nation in the world, right before this operation started, still to today. And this was recognized by American media long before Russia's operation, right? Let's see if we can find one of the articles, right? We've already gotten so far off track, so let's continue. Ukraine corruption. I would spell Ukraine wrong. Ukraine corruption. Let's type in like 2018. Sure. Here's one for 2019. Fighting corruption in Ukraine. USAID strategy. Right there. So there's Brookings, the Brookings Institute admitting it. Here's Atlantic Council. Ukraine's choice: corruption or growth. Right. This was in June of 2021. Right. Foreign policy: the corrupt shall inherit Ukraine, right? Corruption in Ukraine has to be stopped, says BBC News, right? You have Western media even admitting these things, right? Most corrupt nation in the world is going to send them all this advanced some not advanced, but you're going to send them, in many cases, advanced military hardware. It's absurd, right? People are going to die from this hardware. There's going to be terrorist attacks, right? U.S. doesn't care about terrorist attacks, right? They don't. They proved that when they blew up Nord Stream, right? Possibly it's without a doubt the largest act of industrial terrorism ever, right? It may turn out to be one of the most deadly acts of terrorism of any kind ever, right? How many people will die in the European Union from not being able to get heating gas, right? Many, right? The U.S. has destroyed Europe. They've turned Europe into a third world, into third world countries. I guess Europe isn't a monolith, but the EU essentially, right, into a third world institution, and that's exactly what they wanted to do. That's one of the things they wanted to do. It's what they did after World War II, right? Well, I guess they didn't do that in World War II. World War II was much more nuanced, and there was a clear good and bad side, I'd say, but it was one of the benefits the West had. We'll say that after World War II. U.S. Russia talk. Oh, this is important. We should talk about this. The START Treaty, the New START Treaty, or START 3. I believe, right, START is Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, right? Specifically, nuclear weapons. I believe Trump pulled out of the START Treaty, but, Trump was a Putin puppet, a Russia puppet, right? We all know that, but at the same time, of course, that doesn't line up with reality because Trump pulled out of the START Treaty, and at every turn, Trump was also hostile towards Russia, right? So, but Trump was a Putin puppet. Move on. Negotiations on arms control between Moscow and Washington set to begin in Cairo on Tuesday have been pushed back, says the Russian Foreign Ministry. Replying to RT's request for comment regarding the event, the ministry said on Monday, quote, a previously planned session going from November 29th to December 6th of the Bilateral Consultation Commission on the Russian-American New START Treaty in Cairo will not take place on the date specified. Quote, the event is being postponed to a later date. Meanwhile, CNN has quoted the U.S. State Department as saying Washington is ready to hold talks at the earliest possible date. U.S. officials emphasized that, quote, resuming nuclear inspections under the New START Treaty is a priority. That's curious, right? Why are we pushing it back then, right? Is that just Russia? Russia wants to push it back, right? Russia actually has nuclear weapons, right, near their doorstep, right? The United States doesn't, right? So why would Russia want to push that back, right? They're the ones that are most worried about strategic nuclear weapons, not the U.S., right? Where are the strategic nuclear weapons near the U.S., right? You gotta try to tell me they're in Cuba? Let's continue here. New START, which was signed in 2010, remains virtually the last arms control deal between the two nuclear powers since America's unilateral withdrawal in 2019 from the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty. That's what Trump pulled out of. not start, excuse me. The deal limits the number of nuclear warheads that the U.S. and Russia can possess to 1,550 each. It also requires that each side have no more than 700 deployed intercontinental ballistic missiles, submarine-launched ballistic missiles, and nuclear bombers. The total number of strategic nuclear delivery vehicles must not exceed 800. How about zero? What if it can't exceed zero? Moscow suspended the inspection regime under the treaty in August, citing Western sanctions that have prevented Russian inspectors from doing their work in the U.S., thus putting Washington at an unfair advantage. I need to read that again. I don't know what I just read. Excuse me. Moscow suspended the inspection regime under the treaty in August, citing Western sanctions that have prevented Russian inspectors from doing their work in the U.S., thus putting Russia or Washington at an unfair advantage. Well, that makes sense, right? Why are we going to let you inspect ours if we can inspect yours, right? It's like with the Iran nuclear deal, the JCPOA, whenever Trump pulled out of that, and America was saying, oh, well, Iran must still follow through. Why? You pulled out of the deal. Why am I going to follow through? It's absurd. It's what a narcissist would say, right? It doesn't matter what I do. You must just do what I say. It's absurd. No awareness, no sense of, no self. It's absurd. The Russian Foreign Ministry said the inspections would continue once the principle of parity and equality is restored. Inspections had previously been disrupted by lockdowns in response to COVID. What an insane statement, right? How the Russians are so crazy. Look at what they said. They said the inspections should be, should have parity and be equal, right? We should be able to inspect you if you inspect us. How insane, right? The Russians are insane. I think we should just be able to do whatever we want to them and them have no say about it, right? I'm being facetious, obviously. Check back here, see if we have any comments. I don't know. We got up a viewer. Welcome. It's very late. I don't know why this is happening, but appreciate it. Like, subscribe, do all the stuff people say. Let's read. Let's just, I'm going to close my eyes. You ready? Here. Rising prices force Germans to change shopping habits, says survey. Nearly half of those polled avoid products that are, quote, fun and luxury. Wow, what a thriving place. A market research group says. I feel bad for Germany, right? Germany's like the one EU country that I look on. I'm like, oh, I feel bad for you guys. Like, what if Germany's just been destroyed by the United States for years, right? The first head of NATO made it very clear when he said the purpose of NATO is to keep the Americans in, the Russians out, and the Germans down. Right, those were his words. And what does he mean by that? Right, what does he mean by that? Let's break it down, all 3 parts. When he says the Americans in, what he means is keeping America in Europe, keeping America the puppet master, the control of keeping America in control of Europe, is what he means by that. And when he says keep the Russians out, he means keep the Russians from being that. And he says keep the Germans down, he means keep Germany in a position where they can't come to power, where they can't have sovereignty, where they can't make their own decisions, because the West, I say the West, the United States and England, specifically the Wall Street interests and the City of London interests, have always been very, very concerned about Germany realizing that their interests don't lie with them. They don't lie with Wall Street and the City of London. They don't lie with the United States and England, but they lie with Germans, of course, and those German interests would be much more served by working with Russia, right? Where would Germany get the cheapest, most efficient gas from, right? It would be Russia, right? Through perhaps some pipelines in the Baltic Sea, right? If they had some pipelines in the Baltic Sea, oh, they did. That's right. And what happened? The United States blew them up, right? So I imagine Germans understand that. I'm not in Germany. I don't know any German. But I imagine a great deal of Germans understand that the United States has condemned them to third world conditions, right? Power outages, right? We're not able to. Right now, it's light, right? Right now, it's like, oh, well, we're not going to turn the lights on at the Eiffel Tower. Obviously, that's in France. We're talking about Germany, but we're not going to turn the lights on at parks, and we're not going to at night, and we're not going to illuminate government buildings in an effort to, okay, that's light. We're not going to heat swimming pools. We're going to just close the swimming pools, right? That's what it started out as. But you know what it's going to go to, right? We're going to go to phase blackouts. We're going to break Berlin into quadrants, and this quadrant is going to spend 2 hours a day in darkness, and then this quadrant, and then this quadrant, and this quadrant is going to be rotating, and that's what we're going to. And then eventually it's going to escalate from there. It's going to go, well, we have to go to 3. Well, now we have to go to 6 hours. Well, now we can't have it at night. You can't have it at night. You should just go to sleep at night anyways, right? That's what they're going to say, right? Oh, you can't take showers. There's no hot water, right? That's what they're going to go to. And what happens at a grocery store when there's no power, right? What happens to the food? What happens to that frozen food? What happens to the meat, right? You're not going to be able to keep it cold. If you don't open the freezer, it'll hold its temperature for a little bit, but eventually that's going to still warm up. Then what's going to happen? Your food's going to go bad unless it's eaten. And even if you eat all that food, okay, well, now you're out of food. You going to bring in more frozen food? Where are you going to store it? How are you going to get it there? What type of trucks are you going to transport it in? You have to have refrigerated trucks to transport this food. That would take electricity, right? So it scales, right? It starts off slow where we're going to not illuminate parks at night, and then we're going to do phase blackouts, and then you get to the point where there's no food because you can't store it, right? If you can dry age it, right? We can go back to Stone Age conditions where we go shoot a deer, or we slaughter a cow or whatever, and then we're gonna go hang it up, and we're gonna dry age it, and it'll, all right, and you go back to those conditions. But no one wants to do that. Let's read this article a bit. I have to take some water. Hold on. So this is done by Nielsen IQ. The results indicate 52% of German consumers only buy basic needs products, while some 30% answered that they were shopping less altogether. Around 44% said they now avoid products that are fun and luxury. And 1 in 3 are trying to reduce restaurant visits, opting instead for cooking at home. That's a good decision anyways. Only 10% of those polls said price increases had no effect on their shopping habits. And those responses came mostly from people with higher weight. Well, that would make sense. The survey was conducted among 10,000 consumers. Only 1,000 people said that their shopping habits haven't been affected by the economic conditions, right? It's telling that more and more people seem to be wondering what they can do without and then actually do so. Well, that's interesting. Here's some more numbers. Germany's annual inflation rate jumped to 10.4% in October, hitting a new historic high, according to data from the Federal. Yeah, I bet that's a new high. Prices were mostly driven by rising energy costs, which surged 43% year on year and are expected to grow further throughout the winter. Man, that's just this first winter. What about next winter, right? Because you can't just you don't just do that and then we have all this infrastructure to bring in natural gas. You can't just go, okay, we want to get more natural gas from the U.S. or some African country. Okay, so there we go. There are the ports. No, it takes like 5 years to build one port. So, okay, let's say France and Germany, let's say they contract to build these ports. And of course, they're going to have to go through all these private networks because it's not a state-run enterprise, which is far more efficient and serves public good, right? They don't have that. Instead, they're going to have to go to some contractor and they're going to have to go, well, we need you to build this. And they're going to say, well, we have to make money from building this, right? We can't just build it for the public good, right? That would be absurd. You have to pay us, or give us some money. And then, of course, the prices are going to be absurd. And, then you build it. And 4 years later, here are your ports. And bring in the gas. Okay, what happens in those 4 years, 4 or 5 years that it takes to build it? What's going to happen? Or, one winter goes by and it's okay, we made it through. What about the next one? Well, our gas is even more limited. We have even less than we did last winter. Okay, you're through winter 2. Whoever made it through 2 winters has made it through. Now another, right? This stuff scales, man. You talk about 10.4% inflation in a country like Germany. They're not the United States, right? The United States, we don't have time to talk about it, but the United States can absorb inflation, so to speak, more than other nations can due to the petrodollar and due to many financial things around the world. But Germany can't, right? The EU can't just do that. They don't have the financial power, the currency power that the United States does, right? So these countries can absorb that quite like the US. The US can't absorb it very well either, especially now. But Germany can't. My point. Move on. Let's do this another time or two. Any comments? I remember Republicans attacked Obama, relentlessly saying he was so stupid, to think Iran would honor JCPOA. Turns out it was USA who violated the deal. Yeah, of course. The Republicans were attacking Obama because that was their job, but also the Republicans are the ones that have been most hostile towards Iran. You'll see that in various different parties. Right, the different parties have different countries that they're a bit more. They're all hostile to the same countries, but one party is a bit more hostile to one than the other. And the Republicans have been more hostile towards Iran. You saw that under Trump. Obviously, Trump isn't your traditional Republican, but still, Trump almost started World War III by assassinating Soleimani, right? So, yeah, the Republicans have always been very hostile towards Iran, and they hated the JCPOA, right? Because they don't want to work with Iran, right? They want to go destroy Iran. And if you have some agreement with them, then it makes it a lot harder to justify destruction. But, yeah, we'll move on. The JCPOA, Obama's horrible. Obama's one of the largest war criminals in human history. Really, just one of the largest criminals. But one of the few good things his administration did was the JCPOA. It might be his best foreign policy achievement. Lifting the embargo on Cuba was good too, but it didn't have as big of effects. We'll move on here. I'll do the I thing again. Let's refresh the page and start from the top. I'll just scroll there. Okay. I thing. Can't see this article. I didn't click on anything. Okay. Again. This one. I clicked the top of the screen. One more time. That one. Twitter cracks down on radical. I have no interest in this one. I lied. I won't read everything. That one. Ukrainian terror plot in Zaporozhye foiled. Okay. Ukrainian authorities had planned to detonate a bomb in a market in the city. What a thriving democracy, right? What a thriving, this bastion of human rights, right? They're clearly under siege by just the most evil people in the world who are known as Russians, right? These Russian orcs, how they're so evil. Clearly, Ukraine is just a thriving place. I'm once again, being facetious here. Ukrainian authorities had planned to detonate a bomb in a market in the city of Melitopol in Russia's Zaporozhye region, right? And that is a part of Russia, right? Zaporozhye is a part of Russia now. It's legally a part of Russia. It's sovereign Russia, but we move on. The Russian Federal Security Service, the FSB, said in a statement on Monday. It added that the suspects have been detained and confessed to the plot. Well, that's interesting, right? And of course, we're supposed to go, oh, well, they were under distress when they made that confession. Russia's lying. They never tell the truth. Russia has never told the truth. According to the FSB, 3 Ukrainian nationals, including 2 with prior criminal convictions in Ukraine, were apprehended while driving to the site in order to plant an explosive. Their faces blurred. Well, that's good. That's a good thing they didn't get to blow up a market. That wouldn't really help your effort, right? It wouldn't really say, hey, Zaporozhye, you want to come back to Ukraine? Weren't we so much better? We're blowing you up now. But Gazprom says it won't reduce supplies to Moldova. Russian energy giant Gazprom said on Monday it had received payment from Moldova for November gas supplies, scrapping previous warnings of reduced deliveries. Last week, Gazprom accused Ukraine of siphoning off transit supplies destined for Moldova and threatened to curtail exports through a key pipeline in response starting on November 28th. That is today, or technically yesterday. Funds for gas intended, this is a quote, funds for gas intended for Moldovan consumers and held back on the territory of Ukraine have been received by Gazprom, unquote, the Russian company stated, adding, quote, in this regard, it was decided not to reduce the gas supply to the Sudza interconnection point for transit to Moldova, unquote. At the same time, Gazprom said the Moldovan side regularly violates contractual obligations on payment for Russian gas, cautioning that it reserves the right to reduce or halt future flows if Chezhino fails to make the agreed payments. The Sudza pipeline through Ukraine is the only remaining route for Russian natural gas to Western and Central Europe. I'm surprised it hasn't been blown up. After the Nord Stream pipeline was damaged by a suspicious explosion in September. So suspicious. I hate when the underwater pipelines just explode. It's so annoying when that happens. I wonder, what's going on. Does a shark, does a shark go into the pipeline at a bad angle and the shark's tooth hits the metal of the pipeline and it sparks and that causes the explosion? That must be what happens. That makes the most sense to me. And a sign that I don't know why I'm in this mood where I'm just making a joke out of everything. Maybe it's because it's 2:30 in the morning. And a sign that flows were continuing, Gazprom announced separately that it would ship 42.2 million cubic meters of gas to Europe via Ukraine on Monday. Truly, I'm surprised this pipeline hasn't been destroyed. Right, one HIMARS, boom, right. That would I didn't do it. I'm very surprised they haven't done it, right? Because as we know, the Ukrainians are terrorists, and they're supported by the largest terrorists in the world. They're terrorists being supported and told what to do by the largest terrorist, known as the United States State Department, right? The U.S. State Department, the CIA, the largest terrorist organization on Earth. U.S. accused of disrespect. Oh, yes, let's talk about one of the most petty things ever, right? The U.S. is playing Iran in the World Cup. It's going to be a big game, right? The U.S. has to win to move on. So does Iran. It's a very big game. It's literally win or go home. And actually, I don't know. They can tie soccer's. Why can you tie? What are we doing? We're in a World Cup and we can tie? What are we doing? Play hockey. But moving on. They're going to play each other in the World Cup. It's going to be a big game. And obviously, the U.S. and Iran don't get along. So that's going to make it an even bigger game. And that's putting it lightly, of course. But so I'll just explain it. I'll read some of the article. But the U.S. men's national team, the Twitter account right here, posted a picture like this. And they also posted a picture on the background, the Twitter wall, right? You can post that background behind your profile picture. And then it shows Group B here, England, Iran, the USA, and Wales. And as you can see here, something's missing from the Iranian flag, right? What's missing? It's the symbol of Allah, right? The symbol of Allah, right? The God. The symbol of God is missing, right? And why is that a big deal? Well, because it's God, and it's because it's a major insult to Iran. It's just incredibly petty. And can you imagine the liberal meltdown that would happen if someone took the Star of David off the Israeli flag, or if someone took the cross off of England's flag? If you took the cross off of England's flag, it would just be a white background. But you get my point. You're taking the symbol of God. Not just their God, not just the Muslim God, right? God, right? The Muslim. Islam, right? Islam is a Semitic religion. Is that what you call it, right? It's a Semitic religion. It's the same God as the Jews and as the Christians, right? So you're literally taking God off of the flag. That should be an insult to everyone, truly. But especially the Iranians, especially anyone who's Muslim, and Qatar, right? The World Cup is in Qatar, right? It's just so petty. It's so petty. It shows that they'll go to any lengths to just try to demonize these countries and to try to insult these countries. But as you can see here, the points, England is advancing. England, from my understanding, is one of the favorites in the competition. They have 4 points, and the top two teams from each group advance. England is going to advance no matter what. Iran has 3 points, and the USA has 2 points because we've had 2 ties because we can't score more than 1 goal. But whoever wins that game advances. It'll be a heated game. I plan on watching it. But moving on, it's so petty to do that. What was the point? And technically, Team USA could be disqualified from the competition because some rule that FIFA has about discrimination, and the team would be suspended for 10 games and all that, right? It's just so petty. What are you doing? Why are you risking that, right? The U.S. has drawn in both games, and Qatar thus far playing out a 1-1 draw with Wales. If anyone from Team USA watches this before the game, here's my advice: score a goal, right? I watched the entire game against England, and I was rooting for you because I'm American, even though I rooting for the U.S. on a world stage. It's my duty. I'm an American. I'm a patriot. I have to do it. But score a goal. What are you doing? Right? You hit the post or the crossbar, I guess, but score a goal. Score a goal. Score a goal. I'll get off talking about soccer. I didn't expect to talk about soccer on this stream, but here we are. I guess the World Cup's a big deal, right? It's an international tournament. I saw a discussion going on, should politics be involved? And, I thought, well, of course, politics are everywhere. Especially in an international tournament in Qatar, right? Politics are very involved, right? How many thousands of migrant workers died building the stadium? You're not going to talk about that? But then at the same time, you don't have to be disrespectful to this nation like the West is doing, right? Qatar is an Arab nation, right? It's literally on the Arabian Peninsula. It's an Arab nation. The people there are Islamic. Many of them are devout. And that is great. Good. You cannot go there and disrespect them. When they say you are not allowed to wear the LGBT flag, you're not allowed to do that. You can't do it, right? You can't go there and say, well, I'm going to wear it anyways because I'm from the United States. I'm from England, and we support the LGBT. Shut up, right? You're not there. You're disrespecting these people. If you were just wearing rainbow, if that was the color, if that was the fashion in the West, they would have no problem with you wearing it. But they don't want you to wear it because you're literally going there and saying, hey, you know this religion that many of you devoutly follow and you've committed your lives to? Well, here's something that completely goes against it. Right? You can't do that. You can't do that. Especially with something like the LGBT stuff. It's so manufactured, all of it, right? It's just absurd. YouTube, don't kick me off. But it's absurd. And what else are they doing? It was the armband with the LGBT colors, right? Germany or England and the U.S. captain were going to wear it. God, I'm happy that didn't happen. They do that, I'm not rooting for, right? They're already on thin ice. The only reason I'm rooting for Team USA is, you're right, I'm from here. I'm an American. I enjoy sports. I'm going to root for Team USA, but man, it's hard when first it's soccer. I don't care that much, and I'm here to see Messi and Ronaldo. But man, if they would have worn that, it would have been the last straw. I'd be ready for Iran. Truly. Fans of Qatar troll Germany after armband protest. Oh yes, let's talk about the armband. The Germans have staged a covered mouth protest earlier at the World Cup. What's that gonna do? Right? If you're gonna have a protest, talk, right? Voice your concerns, right? What are you gonna do? Cover your mouth, or we're protesting? Okay, right? That's the most preferred form of protest by anyone being protested ever, right? If you're gonna protest me, I would prefer you did it with your mouth shut, right? Sorry, I got a notification. Eat a strawberry here if nobody minds. Then we'll read more. Football fans in Qatar, soccer fans, right? It's called soccer, right? The dollar is more valuable than the euro, so it's called soccer. That's the rule. Soccer fans in Qatar, so we tied New England. Imagine if England tied us in football. So soccer fans in Qatar took a swipe at Germany during their match against Spain on Sunday night, being seen covering their mouths and waving posters of World Cup winner Mesut Ozil, protesting a decision by FIFA not to allow captain Manuel Neuer to wear a One Love armband, and that's like an armband with like the LGBT flag. German players had covered their mouths for their team photo ahead of their opening match against Japan earlier at the tournament. Some fans in the stands, what am I reading? Man, this is so silly. What are we doing? Right? Are we not on the brink of nuclear war for the past 8 months? Right? What are you talking about? Shut up. Shut up. Imagine, I feel it's so cringy. I couldn't be cordial with somebody. If I had somebody I knew that was like, I'm gonna go to the World Cup and I'm gonna cover my mouth and I'm gonna wear the gay flag. If I knew someone like that, I'd just be like, I can't talk to you for a little bit. It's just so cringy. I don't want to be associated with that. World Cup star responds to insults after Russian flag gesture. Let's read about that because people are very racist towards Russia, right? That's right. Russophobia has just gone through the roof. It always existed in the United States, but it has gone through the roof, truly. Cameroon, I watched the Cameroon game the other day. Dude scored a goal. It was very high energy, and then they lost 4-1. Cameroon midfielder Gael Andoa has said he received insults after playing with boots featuring the Russian flag at the World Cup, but added that who are the insults coming from? But added that he would not be at the tournament were it not for Russia. Anua, 27, was born in Cameroon, but also has Russian citizenship. He's a Putin puppet. He spent much of his youth in Russia, emerging from the football academy. Okay, let's get to the point here. Okay, he plays for a German team. What fact? But his Cameroonian Russian background is reflected in the boots when he plays. Okay. After appearing as a second half substitute for Cameroon's thrilling 3-3 draw. What a thrilling draw. When I watch a sporting event, I want to sit down and I want to see a thrilling draw, right? I want to see no team win. I want to see something really even. Odua spoke about the reaction to his flag gesture. Quote, everyone knows that I've been playing like this for 10 years with 2 flags on my boots. Good for him. Quote, why didn't they notice before and started making noise now? Because now it's popular. After the first game, seeing my boots, there were so many nasty things written to me from all over the world. But I won't change anything in my life. Thanks to Russia, I'm here. Speaking to Norwegian outlet, this is what they're mad about? They're mad about this? They're mad about, imagine getting mad about, how soft are you, right? How can these people simultaneously, like, we need to have a nuclear exchange with the Russian Federation, right? Russia's so mean and evil. We need to destroy humanity. But at the same time, this offends me. I am offended by these tiny flags being on the inside of this man's cleats. I wonder if they're on the outside too, because if they're on the inside, it's going to be harder to see, right? You all understand human anatomy. I assume the inside is going to be like, it's going to be harder to see in there or be easier to see on the outside. So imagine getting up to this. How soft are you? Like, how soft are these people? At the same time, they want to start nuclear war. These are insane individuals, right? They're degenerates is what they are. I call a lot of people degenerates. You'll all get used to it. Odau was handed a Russian shirt by a member of the crowd at full time. What does that mean? At full time? Stupid soccer term. At Al Janoub Stadium on Monday, which he carried with him to the locker room. How based? How cool is that, right? I don't know about Qatar, what's going on in Qatar, but I imagine Qatar might lean to the Russian side, right? Serbian fans were also seen showing support for Russia. I watched the Serbia game, too. That's actually who Cameroon ended up losing to. That was cool to see them support Russia. With one, right, because politics should be involved, because it's an international competition and everything is political. But moving on, with one, that was serious, by the way. I've been being facetious tonight. I guess I have to let you know I'm not. With one displaying a 50-50 flag, featuring half the Russian tricolor and the other half with the Serbian flag. The flags are very similar, right? I think Russia and Serbia, their flags are the same, except Serbia has like a crest in the middle. Could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what's up. Monday's draw means Serbia and Cameroon both need to win their final group. Okay, I don't care. Some weird tie, and now these teams have to win, but if they tie, why are we tying in an international community? We're not playing in my backyard. Or an international competition. I think it's so silly. Play hockey, right? Hockey is cool, right? This is what soccer should do. If you're a soccer fan, I don't care. No, I'm kidding. If you're a soccer fan, soccer is actually cool. I enjoy it. But here's what soccer should do: they should shrink the field down. It's too big. They should have less people. It should be 3 forwards, 2 defensemen, and a goalie for each team, right? Shrink the field. Do that. Put ice everywhere. And then make it how people can move in and out during play, right? Just turn it into hockey, and everybody would enjoy it more, I promise. Erdogan hints at mending ties with Syria as he plans to invade Syria. Well, let's read about this. There should be no hard feelings in politics, the Turkish president has said. Interesting take. Ankara could find a path to repairing its damaged relations with Syria. Why is Istanbul not the capital of Turkey? I know this is completely out of left field, but I wonder this. I don't know about Turkish history. Why is Istanbul not the capital? That makes the most sense, at least in my head. Right? But moving on. Ankara could find a path to repairing its damaged relations with Syria in the future, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan suggested on Sunday. He made the comment a week after Turkey began conducting airstrikes on Kurdish-linked sites in northern Syria and Iraq. Quote, just as Turkey, and why are we spelling Turkey like that now? I've been seeing that everywhere. What's going on? Quote, just as Turkey and Egypt relations started to normalize, and the next period, it can also happen with Syria. Erdogan said at a meeting in the city of Konya, broadcast by news channel TRT. Quote, there is no room for hard feelings in politics, unquote. Is that how the Turkish spell Turkey? Yeah, if that is, I'm cool with it. I just want to know what's up, you know? Moving on, Turkish officials blame the Kurdistan Workers' Party and the Syrian-based Kurdish-led People's Defense Units for a deadly bombing in Istanbul. There were 2 bombings, by the way. Turkey's most populous city, and also the one everybody knows and like is very important for European history, but it's not the capital, whatever. I'll move on. The November 13 attack claimed the lives of 6 people. The PKK, which is listed as a terrorist organization by Turkey. I feel like I should say that differently, like Turkey, right? The U.S. and EU denied any involvement in the Istanbul blast. That's good. Right? What a situation you guys have put yourselves in. What a position you guys have put yourselves in. When there's a terrorist attack, you have to say it wasn't us. Look, guys, I know we don't have a great track record, but this time it wasn't us. I promise. And what a situation to put yourself in. Right? Relations between Ankara and Damascus have deteriorated significantly over the years due to Turkey's support of an anti-government Syrian National Army, previously known as the Free Syrian Army. Syria has also accused Turkey of, quote, occupying, unquote, parts of its territory, as Turkish troops have made several incursions to fight Kurdish forces in the past and have clashed with Syrian government troops. Ties between Ankara and Cairo worsened in 2013 when Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, the country's top military commander at the time, ousted his predecessor Mohamed Morsi from power. The countries have since refrained from appointing ambassadors to each other's capital. Erdogan, however, described meeting el-Sisi on the sidelines of the FIFA World Cup. I like it that it's a sideline. You hear people say the sidelines of the G20, and I get what you're saying. When you say the sidelines of the World Cup, I picture them like on the sideline of the game, like the game's going on and they're just talking. But anyways, Erdogan, however, described meeting el-Sisi on the sidelines of the FIFA World Cup in Qatar this month as a step towards mending ties. He endorsed future contacts with Egypt on the ministerial level. Wasn't this about Syria? How'd this turn into Egypt? I'll just be reading stuff for you guys and forget. World Cup is interesting for the political context. I was sad when England beat Iran. Yeah, me too. I was really rooting for Iran. There's legit grassroots LGBT issues and groups for sure, but they also have a lot of corporate and establishment support who seem to have a different agenda. Yeah, for sure. I agree with that 100%. Let's show that comment. Right, here you go for anyone who watches this later. Very, very factual, Danny Knapp. Thank you for contributing. Cool. Do another article or two. I see we've gone down to like a couple viewers. That's what I expected. We'll do another article or two and then wrap it up. It's 2:49 in the morning. Contents of U.S.-Russia spy chief talks revealed by diplomat. Let's check that one out. Washington's charge, I don't know how to say this word, d'affaires in Moscow, says the head of the CIA and Russian intelligence had met to manage nuclear risk. The heads of the U.S. and Russia's top intelligence agencies have discussed the risk of a potential nuclear confrontation between the two countries. Washington's charge d'affaires in Moscow, never seen that term in my life. Elizabeth Rood has told RIA Novosti. She noted that the ongoing Ukraine conflict was not on the agenda. Interesting. In an interview with the Russian media outlet published on Monday, Rood said the U.S. and the Russian Federation have communication channels for risk management, especially in terms of nuclear risk. And precisely this issue was the goal of CIA Director William Burns' meeting with his Russian counterpart. She pointed out that the two spy chiefs had not, however, discussed the situation in Ukraine or ways to end hostilities there. The American diplomat added that Washington and Moscow could hold consultations in a similar fashion down the road if necessary. Well, that's good. That's good. They said, hey, probably be bad if we nuked each other. We shouldn't do it. Let's avoid it. That's good to hear. I think I'm going to, well, you know what? I promised a couple. I said I'm going to do a couple more articles. I only did one. I will do one more to fulfill my promise to the people, the great people of this YouTube community. Right? Subscribe to the YouTube community. What should be our last article here? Let's do the eye thing. We'll try it one more time, or maybe something here. Xi Jinping is not bringing back Red China. It never went away. Can Disney's new boss fix its real problem? Between Trump and DeSantis, the true Republican's choice is clear. Donald Trump remains a potent political force despite the U.S. midterm election results. Why China is giving Britain the cold shoulder. Oh, these are op-eds. Interesting. Here's top stories. Let's read this. That communication line we were just talking about. This says it was only used once. I wonder what it was about. Somebody pick it up on accident. It was trying to, hello, I'd like to order a pizza. What? This is Russia. Right? Is that how it happened? I should do sketch comedy. Washington reportedly initiated the lone call on the special military hotline set up at the start of the Ukraine conflict, a special U.S.-Russia military hotline that was set up at the beginning of the Ukraine conflict to prevent dangerous miscalculations. Between Washington and Moscow has reportedly been used only once since the crisis began. These are blue light glasses. I have 20/20 vision. The U.S. initiated the lone call placed on the so-called deconflictation line. Reuters reported on Monday, citing an unidentified official in President Joe Biden's administration. That call was made to communicate, quote, concerns about Russian military operations near critical infrastructure in Ukraine, unquote. The report said, without providing more specifics. Reuters speculated that the call could have been related to Russian operations around the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant, or to fears that Moscow's forces might blow up the Nova Kakhovka Dam in southern Ukraine. The official said the call wasn't about a missile that landed in Poland earlier this month, killing 2 people and risking global nuclear annihilation. The deconflictation line, how do you say this? Deconflication. I need to go to sleep. Which connects the U.S. military's European command to Russia's National Defense Management Center, as one of several ways the 2 nuclear-armed countries can communicate with each other during times of conflict. Well, that's good. Didn't we set that up after the Cuban Missile Crisis? Why do we need to set up another one? Do we set one up every time there's something okay, we need a Ukraine hotline now. Okay, not one. Now we need a Cuban Missile Crisis hotline. Right? Does one not serve? We'll go ahead and close that. Go read the Chinese Constitution. Don't believe the bullshit you see in media. So I'm going to wrap it up here. Let's take these glasses off. I look like a nerd. I'm joking. My eyes were hurting from the blue light. They're very beneficial. I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you to the people that came and watched. I was very surprised. I figured I was pretty much just recording a video for later. But yeah, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share it if you will. If you enjoy it, you see. Help grow the community, right? Help grow this form of commentary. I know I kind of just got on here and rambled for a while and made a bunch of jokes about articles, but that's what happens when it's 3 a.m. But yeah, thanks for watching. Danny Knapp, thanks for the comments. Oh, you can see my dog. I didn't know that. I didn't realize you could see her the whole time. Good. Her name is Mia. She thanks you for watching. She thanks you for watching as well. I might stream again later today. Technically, I'll go to sleep at some point and maybe stream later. I might start streaming at night. I don't have a lot to do. I don't have a lot going on, right? I'm doing school. I do a little bit of stuff here and there, but for the most part, I don't have a lot going on. I'm up very late. I suppose I could start streaming, right? Because the streams go on YouTube, so people can watch them later. But I'm rambling again, so I'll go to sleep. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share it. Follow me on Telegram. Follow me on Twitter, especially Telegram. I'm a big fan of Telegram. Twitter is Twitter. It's you go there, you shit on people, you get off. But yeah, follow me. Thank you. Have a good one. Turn on the notifications. Have a good one.